Hello out there, sports fans. Welcome to our podcast today. It's Coach EJ, the brand.
It's Coach Aaron, the source. EJ, I actually got a subject I'm actually really excited to talk about. You'll probably do most of the talking though, but I'm along for the ride, man. Really interested on your take, and then I'll kind of bounce in. But I'm calling this one Deconstructing the 5 Tools of Baseball. And what I want to do is, because we hear, hey, this kid's a 3-tool kid, or this is a 4-tool kid. I don't know, but I don't hear a lot of there's a 5-tool kid. But regardless, those in baseball understand, what these tools are, and they're the skill set that these athletes have to have. But I'm not exactly sure everyone understands how those tools are viewed and how they manifest themselves in the game and what they should look like, and maybe even what that evolution should be over a period of time. Maybe how many tools should they have at middle school versus high school, so I kind of want to dive into this. We'll go a lot of different probably a lot of different directions. Again, I'll give you my 2 cents, but this is, more in your wheelhouse than mine. I've helped develop the tools, but I actually want to look at it from the other side, from the coach's eye, and not just, okay, a shortstop has to run 6'7". Well, but also what does that look like, in terms of their baseball play? So, how does that manifest itself on the field? So I want to kind of get into it. But anyway, that's my opening salvo. What are your thoughts? Where do you want to start on this?
We're really breaking down or deep diving into these 5 tools people talk about and how do they apply in the game, and how do coaches view these tools, and how are these tools, analytically looked at, subjectively looked at, and how do they apply to the play on the field? And I think this is great because we're breaking down or deconstructing these tools to understand what it really looks like behind the scenes, rather than say, here are the tools, you got to do this and do that. And we're really getting involved heavily into what does this really look like, rather than kind of a surface kind of evaluation, as they say.
Right. So EJ, let's start with the definition of the 5 tools. Give us a definition.
Okay, 5 tools of baseball. Hitting, your ability to hit. Second tool, your ability to hit with power. Third tool, arm strength. How strong is your arm? Fourth tool, how well do you play defense? Fifth tool, how fast do you run? Those are the 5 tools that scouts at the major league level, collegiate level, and hopefully at the high school level look at. And as I have been a USA baseball national team coach, task force member, evaluator of talent, we look at those tools too. So pretty much across the board, Aaron, those are the 5 tools. And if I had to throw another one in there, the 6th tool is your attitude. Are you a good teammate? Do you have a baseball IQ? Do you buy into the team philosophy? That's the 6th tool that a lot of people really don't know about either. And that 6th tool is a big deal when you're constructing a clubhouse and a team to compete. So those are 6 tools.
So we just did a podcast on getting to be ready to be a D1 athlete. And we actually talked about how that time clock has to be adjusted now. It's no longer the 9th grade where you say, hey, yeah, I want to be a D1 athlete and embark on that. Now we're talking about it being the 7th grade, because there's such a disparity in the athletes who are going into college.
Right.
We're graduating, at 17, 18, and the athletes they got to compete against are much older now. They're not just 20, but now they're 22, 23 with still 2 or 3 years of eligibility.
Correct.
So, and again, I don't know if this question is relevant, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So at that 7th grade level,
Okay.
how many tools would you like to see a kid have if they're going to be on the trajectory to becoming a D1 or collegiate athlete? I don't even say D1.
Yeah,
just collegiate, because all of it's highly competitive now. And we talk about that in the podcast.
We sure do.
So, I mean, as a parent or as a coach, because I know you get these athletes, and just like I get these athletes, like, oh, okay, I'm seeing something here. You know what when you see it. And,
right.
And so maybe what's that aha moment to say, you know what, I got something here.
Right.
Are they displaying 2 tools? Are they displaying 3 tools? Are they really an outlier for their age group in 1 tool? What are you seeing? What would you like to see? Just probably from your main, not your superly gifted athlete, but just your mainstream kid who comes in, who, hey, we can build this kid into the model that we're looking for.
Right.
Because that's really most of us. We're talking to mere mortals. We're not talking.
Right. We're talking about the average Joe guy.
Yes.
Okay. So 2 tools. 2. I say 2. And the reason why I say that is because I think we can develop a 3rd one. Mm-hmm. Say like the kid's got a really good arm, that's a tool. And he's a really good defender, that's a tool. But he's an average runner and he's an average hitter. And those aren't tools yet. The power tool, Aaron, by the way, I mentioned, I don't even look into that, because that is a tool that is acquired later on. I believe it potentially has what I call a potential label. I don't use that tool very much. In colleges, the guy's got power, but the bat and everything like that, it's changed that. I think the power tool is later in pro ball, personally. That's my opinion. Okay. I think you see guys hit 20 home runs in college or 18, they think that's power. No, it's not. I put a wood bat in the hand and now it's 8. Yeah. So, I throw out the power tool. So I need to see at least 2 tools, and let's develop a 3rd tool. So if I see I have the good arm or a good, good defender, and he's the average runner, we can help that average runner, because maybe their gait or whatever, you know this better than I do, is just not functioning right. And we can make that guy a little bit better.
So let's look at, you said the defensive tool, because that's something that's a little more subjective.
Yes.
So, at the 7th grade, what are they doing that tells you, hey, this kid has a tool? Do you see what I'm saying? Because I talk about this a lot of time. You can be successful at lower levels doing things incorrectly.
Right.
So what are you looking for that really says, hey, that's a defensive tool for a younger athlete? Because something that they do at the 7th, 8th grade may not play in high school, because size of the field gets bigger, the game gets faster, all of those sorts of things. So what are you looking at that transfers to the next level?
Yeah. Each level, right? High school, college, for instance, one, can they catch the ball? What I look for is when they play catch, like they catch the ball and they catch in their pocket and they transition into a throwing hand, and it's very smooth and it's very relaxed and it's controlled. If I see that, that's a start of a defensive tool. That's a start of it. It doesn't mean they have a defensive tool, but they can catch the ball properly and they're catching their pocket every time. And when they go to transfer into their hand, it's not like they're always double clutching. It's a smooth transition into a movement pattern to throw the baseball. Key, a movement pattern to throw the baseball, because you can teach a movement pattern, but they're doing it naturally. Catch, transition, move their feet, good arm, right? So they're doing that. That's just catching. Now you get them out to the position, the same thing. It looks the same. They're in infield, looks the same. Catch, transfer, good movement pattern. Outfield, they read the ball, jump, get a jump, turn the right way, get their feet in correct position, catch the ball, throw it.
So
I hit the ball on the ground to an outfielder. They can come in, catch it, move into a crow hop fast, and transition with the glove to hand transfer and the throw. So that's when I know, I go, there's a tool there. How efficient will that tool be? Let's go try it when a person is running against them or it's live. Let's see if that actually is a tool when you play it live.
So one of our most storied baseball players that we've shared, we were actually lucky enough to get at the at that 6th, 7th grade age. Okay, and now I guess he's on his way of retiring, and we were just talking about him earlier this week, Brandon Crawford.
Right.
What did you see in Brandon Crawford at that age? What tools was he displaying? And I'm sure it was defense. Okay,
I'm gonna tell you,
what did his defense look like? Did it look like what you're describing?
It looked like that to a T. And I was like, and the smoothness and the actions, and you just had some actions. I go, well, those are different. Like, and he knew they needed to get better too. And I was like, wow, this guy's different. He's an outlier. There's something different about his school. He also has a sense. Here's another thing. When I say defensive tool, there's a sense of like, I can react or I anticipate, keyword, anticipate where I think that ball's going, and I see plays ahead of plays. So when you talk about a defensive tool, I'm talking about all of this stuff here within that. Not just, okay, catch, throw, that's good enough. I'm talking about IQ, sense of like anticipation where that ball is going to be, bad hop reactions, and just how they move their body.
Right.
Fluidly as an athlete.
And I like that you said that, because I'll always hear these parents come back from a showcase or a tryout, and they'll always say, he caught every ball hit to him. And I always have to say, it's not him catching each ball, making the throw. It's how they have approached that catch and made the throw. Because there's a certain expectation at a certain level that you should be catching and throwing the ball.
Right, exactly.
But you have to understand, good coaches are looking at the process of how you do that. It's not just the completion. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And that's what you're talking about when you're talking about identifying this particular tool. And I want parents to really understand that the completion of the play is only one part of the success. But when you're talking about evaluating an athlete and talking about where their skill set is at, it's the process that they go through. If, for instance, in track and field, you can have at younger ages kids who are just physically stronger and they're bigger, and they'll outrun kids. Okay, those kids won the race, but if their head is way back and their arms are flailing, their process is really screwed up. And as a track coach, I know that process ain't going to play at the next level. That process isn't going to win at the next level. So I may opt to take this kid who took second or third, who's only a couple of steps behind him, but doing the process more correctly.
Right. Yeah.
Because as a coach, now I've got to do a lot of work to correct that kid who won doing everything incorrectly, and have to maybe have him unlearn some bad habits, where I can take a kid who's doing 70% of the things correctly, but may not be there physically yet, or may just have some tweaking to do.
Right.
So maybe that's an analogy that might strike home with you guys a little bit better. It's not what your eyes are always, telling you who won the race, who made the play, who hit the ball, but the process to that success. Right.
And I think that's what, a lot of people don't understand about when you talk about the 5 tools is there's a story within the story. And And a lot of times that gets lost in translation. And I hear that often. Well, they did everything perfect at the showcase or at the camp or in the game, they did it perfect, and you can see it. Look at the numbers and stuff like that. I go, okay, what kind of ball was it that was hit to them? Was it hard? Was it soft? Was it average? Who was the runner? Was the runner running really fast? Mm-hmm. Was it to their left? Was it to their right? Was it at them? How difficult was the play? So you start taking all of that stuff to evaluate, does this player have a defensive tool? Yes. All that stuff I mentioned.
Yes.
Part of having a tool. You've got to have those things to have a tool. Okay. You can't just say, oh, he's got a tool because he can catch the ball and he can transition it. What if this player can only catch a ball right at them? That's not a defensive tool to me. That player can make a routine play, okay, at them, right at them. What about if it's 2 steps to the right or 3 steps to the left? And it goes back to speed. Does a player's speed translate into on the field? Like, the guy can be a 6'5" runner, but he gets terrible jumps and he's all awkward. He gets there too fast. He has no body control. He doesn't know how to get their glove prepared properly. Now, yeah, he's a fast runner, but he doesn't have a defensive tool. Just because you're fast doesn't mean you have a defensive tool. You see what I'm saying? So
take it from a guy. It's funny because when I started playing ball again after college, semi-pro, I was a 6'1", 6 flat, 60-yard dash guy.
Right.
I played outfield better as a 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old than I did as a 24-year-old. Because, I could get to the ball, but, my whole depth perception and everything was all off.
Right.
So here I go, high ball, 5 stories up, and I can't track it. But at a 12, 13-year-old, I could, And it's just funny you mentioned that because it just brought back some embarrassing memories for me.
Oh, God.
Like, I sucked, But again, but it's funny because a ball to my left, ball to my right, diving catch, boom, no problem.
Right.
So again, how is that speed transferring? And anyway, just a side note, but it was just something that...
But that's
cringe because I was that guy. But you're right. It's about usable speed. It's about usable speed. And again, in the speed aspect, you have to have a lot of plus speed to be successful and still make mistakes in baseball at a high level.
Oh, absolutely. You need to have definite.
I was lucky enough to be that guy when it was baseball and everything. But I can tell you, I didn't get the best jumps. And I had to practice on reading pictures and, to really utilize my speed a lot better. But I see that with a lot of younger athletes. They're fast, but they're making a lot of mistakes in reading the picture, anticipating where the ball's going to come off the bat, all of those sorts of things, and using their speed. Where there's kids who are 2 steps slower, boom, 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 they're on it because they are doing that math in their head.
Yes. And Aaron, I hear this a lot with college coaches and even professional guys too, is that, they're going to find the fastest guy and put him in center field because of the ground that they have to cover, number one. But you said it. What if they don't get a good read? Their speed can overcome it.
Yeah.
See, so when you talk about the speed tool, there is a plus speed tool, plus speed tool. That is like that 6 to 6'3" runner that they can put in center field over the 6'5", 6'6" guy. Because even the guy who runs 6'5", 6'6", he's really fast. He gets good jumps. There's something different about a 6'0" runner versus a 6'5" runner. And this better than anybody. So when they start talking about these tools and people understanding, they need to understand about these 1/10, 2/10, 3/10 of running speed is a big deal to a lot of these guys at certain positions, So understand, about this tool set and what does it mean to you, And I think we're taking a deep dive and breaking down these tools is important, isn't really important.
So just to kind of recap on the speed tool, because we kind of just glossed over a couple of things. So then basically when you're looking at a speed tool, it's not just the flat out speed. That's the raw speed. Okay.
That's raw speed. Yes. Yes.
Now we're talking about maybe how they clear the box after they make contact with the ball.
Right.
What's their approach if they've got to take two? What's that path? What's that route? How efficient that is?
Mm-hmm.
Do they have the ability to reaccelerate to take three?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What is their sliding mechanics like? Right?
It all plays
up. First dive. Do they know how to anticipate that, those things properly? Then when you're talking about speed, I guess, what are their jumps like? What are their lead-offs like? Are they heads up guys who, again, anticipating where the ball is going to be so they don't get caught in a pickle?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm just going through scenarios and things that I had to learn to be able to utilize my speed. I mean, is that what you guys are looking at on the backside too? Besides, okay, this kid's a burner. Because you can only use so much of that. Right.
You couldn't have said any better. All those things that you said are correct about, this speed tool. Because the guy can be really fast. Yeah, he's got speed. But is it speed that you can apply in the game?
Right.
Getting a good jump. Because the guy can be really fast. What if he's not a good start? Like he picks up his speed later in the run. Well, what if he's trying to steal a base? Yeah. And a good example is Ricky Henderson, who was fast, but he was fast right from the start.
Right.
That's why he stole so many bases, is that he could get the top speed really fast. Another guy, Vince Coleman, could get the top speed really fast. And that's why they stole all these bases. And versus a guy that is just as fast as them, if not faster, and he couldn't steal bases. I saw that guy too. I saw that guy, a guy named Keith Too Cool Thomas. He was a 5'9", 6'0" guy, couldn't steal a base. We throw him out every time because he never got a good jump and couldn't get the top speed. By the time he got halfway there, he was like at top speed, but the ball was there.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that because when I talk to athletes about speed, and the 60 is such a misnomer. It does such a disservice to baseball.
It is a disservice
because of its application to the game. And I said, baseball speed is about your ability to accelerate.
Yes, sir.
That's it. If you're talking about usable baseball speed, it's your ability to accelerate. So if I'm a scout and I'm wanting to quantify if this kid has a speed tool, it's not going to be based on a 60-yard dash.
Right.
It's not. I'm going to be looking at his acceleration mechanics through at least maybe 30 yards. How does this kid get up to speed? That's going to tell me the playing speed that he's going to be able to use, or the potential playing speed he's going to be able to use. So this is coming from a speed guy.
Okay.
To me, that 60 just doesn't really matter a whole lot. I mean, I guess it's like throwing 90. Yeah, you got to run a certain time to get your foot through the door so that they'll consider you.
Yeah.
But in terms of what makes you an effective ball player, I don't think that's an indicator.
And I'm going to go off on a tangent and say I agree with you 100% there. And coaches are timing guys when they hit the ball. You said it. How do they get out of the batter's box? Usable speed when they hit the ball and how they gather and run down the first base line. Yes, on a ball hit on the infield, how fast are they running through first base? And then also another thing that a lot of people don't understand about that speed tool is when they get a hit, a base hit, what's their turn time? Running full speed, they touch the bag, what's their turn time? And then when they hit an extra base, a base hit, what's their time to second? What's their time to third? That's why they have these splits on their stopwatches. Oh, he was there at a second and he got there at third, and they can go back and look at that. Well, coaches are looking at that now. And
because there's an efficiency that you have to be able to take two and take three. And if that time gets slower and slower, it doesn't matter. And even though that might be 60 yards, it's not 60 yards straight.
Right. Right. And, it's kind of funny you said this. I was watching a video on one of the players that you and I share, and I saw this player hit the ball to right center field, and I saw him get the proper turn, pick up the ball inside corner of the base, and then when he saw that he was ready to go to third, just before the bag, he just took off to third, and I saw, whoa, look at that. That reminded me of Deion Sanders when we were playing in Candlestick one day. He hit the ball down the right field line, and Willie McGee went down the line, cut the ball off, and lobbed it in to Robbie Thompson. And I'm like going, why did he get rid of it fast? Well, by the time Deion Sanders got between first and second, he was already on third. That's why he got the ball, lobbed it back into Robbie, because he said, no chance. This guy's acceleration speed around the bases is incredible. And that's what coaches look for also. So when you said that, I was like going, boy, he's checking all the boxes. Aaron is checking all the boxes now. He's talking about what coaches look for when they look for those 5 tools. How does it apply to baseball? Do they have acceleration? Do they get good jumps? That's a speed tool to me.
Cool. Let's go to we did defense, we did speed. Let's do arm speed.
Yes.
Arm strength, I guess.
Right.
Most people are going to call it velocity.
Right. So there's some parameters. I mean, you throw everybody in right field and you have them throw the ball from right field to third base, and they're looking for a miles per hour rating, right? So I look at that, and it's usually over 85. 85 miles per hour is considered a plus arm. In the infield, same thing. They consider a plus arm.
And that's for a high school athlete.
That's right. That's for high school athletes. I'm just going to start there. As you go up the levels, like 90 and 95, etc.
Now, what would you look at as, again, we're talking about this beginning development. What about 7th grader?
And I think this is important. So
James Darnell.
James Darnell, another guy we had. So at a young age, and I saw him at 9. So I kind of had a feeling of James at 9 that he was pretty different because his throwing motion was so good. But he got the ball and his arm speed, man. His arm speed to get the ball and bam. I'm like, whoa, that's different. So what I looked at with my eye was the fact that how fast he could catch the ball and then get his circle moving on the backside. This arm was moving quickly, and when he threw it, the ball had carry. It didn't like go there and drop. It was actually accelerating. I'm going, this is a 9-10-year-old kid. And then when he got 7th grade, I was like, oh my goodness, that's a plus varsity arm already.
Now, this might be a stupid question, but is a high degree of velocity going to be apparent with that type of throw at that age? Or does the velocity come more from the strength? You know what I'm saying? I know a kid can have a strong arm at that age, but I'm just saying, if you see a kid who can do that, but maybe the velo isn't there, but those underlying mechanics and processes there, is that still something that says, okay, this is a possible plus?
It could be a possible plus, just depending on how the strength and the athlete grows and how efficient they become. Are they still efficient? Usually, if a kid is early and he has good throwing mechanics, and I see the ball spinning right, I know that's
going to carry. And that's what I'm getting at, because we've had hitting classes, we've had fielding classes, and I'm looking at these kids throw, and I'm like, this kid can't throw.
Right. Yeah, and I'm going to tell you about this throwing thing too. Go ahead with your thought, and I want to.
And so that's why I'm saying, that goes back to parents making sure these kids learn these processes and not worry about the outcome so much, because you might have a slight kid, but like you said, if he's getting that quick delivery and you're starting to see that proper spin on the ball, and there's no deceleration, over a certain distance, then you're probably doing all right. Because kids are going to grow, they're going to get stronger, you can do strength, you know what I'm saying? But the underlying thing, again, I go back to my sprint analogy. If the underlying mechanics are there and it's just a matter of a lack of horsepower, well, Mother Nature and conditioning can take care of that.
Right.
If the kid if his mechanics are bad, And yeah, he may have a rocket arm at the 7th grade, but if his mechanics are bad, how much of that is going to continue to carry?
It won't. I've said this. I've been in baseball training development since 1990, and what I've found out, and I was playing then, is that if I could teach a kid how to throw at 8 and 9, they're not going to have problems later. And I think it's such a big issue. Teach kids how to throw properly at 8 and 9, and even at 10 can be late, 11 can be late, 12 can be late. When the kid picks up a glove, puts the glove on, and they go for their first throw, teach them the proper mechanics, the wrist action, the arm action, all that stuff. Because if you don't, then the field's going to catch up to you. Mother Nature's going to catch up to you with bad mechanics and throwing.
And when you first
so much that you can do.
And when you first put that glove on the kid, what are most people looking for? They're looking for them to catch the ball.
Right.
They're not looking at that other aspect.
They're not looking at the throw.
Because that's the success. That's the visual success.
Right.
That's the win.
Yeah.
They might get the ball to you, but it might be so wonky in any other way unless you really have a trained eye and understand what that process should look like. That probably is overlooked quite a bit. Because again, you have this false sense of success because, oh, the kid got the ball to me.
Right.
But you dropped the ball. That's the failure. Do you understand what I'm saying? So our focus is probably it has to be on both processes, not just the one that looks like the success.
Right. And along those lines, Aaron, the player who you're playing with at a young age, they're copying what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So if you have a funky, wonky throwing motion, they're probably doing the same thing what they see. I'm a young kid. I don't know. I mean, 6, 7, 8, and they're looking at that going, oh, mom, dad throw that way. I guess that's the right way. Because we're conditioned as kids, listen to your parents, do what your parents do. And they're doing the same thing. And I remember a coach years ago, and he said this to me. And I love this, what he said to me. He goes, I try to play catch the way that you're teaching us in the coaching clinic. So my kid knows how to play catch correctly or how to throw correctly, he said. I try to catch with 2 hands. I try to the arm action you showed us. I try to do what you taught me so my kid can become a better thrower. And I remember that. I remember this kid's kid, this young man's, this gentleman's kid. And he was a very good thrower of the ball because the father or the mother in both cases were teaching them properly. I've always said this. I thought girls throw better than guys at an early age because they're taught better, and there's a degree of importance on not only catching but throwing and throwing properly. And the classes we've taught over the years in softball and baseball at the same age group, whether it was softball,
girls could always throw.
The girls were way better than the guys at 13. And I was like going, they just have better mechanics. They were taught better at an early age, and that's why they throw the ball much better. They throw the ball way better than the guys do at an early age. And I've always said that about softball players versus boys at certain ages. They threw the ball better.
So it could be a compliment if someone says you throw like a girl.
Absolutely, it sure can. I'm like, you throw like a girl? Well, that's pretty good.
Hey, I'll take it. Okay, so now moving on to speed, right. Or arm velocity, arm strength at the higher level. So you talked about, they put you out in right field, right. And they give you a velo reading.
Right.
Now,
right.
What are some of the other things? They're probably looking at trajectory.
Definitely trajectory and carry. Trajectory and carry is what they're looking for.
Explain carry, because we talked about carry again in fielding, but I really want you to give another definition or repeat that definition of carry on a ball, because I don't think people understand what that really means.
Carry would be when the ball comes at you and it's still maintaining some sort of velocity going to the base, whether it's when it's going there, it skips and accelerates to the fielder or the third baseman in the case if the kids are in right field, or if the ball is thrown on a line and it stays on that same line all the way to third base. That's like carry, arm strength. They look for that, how the ball comes out of the hand and it just keeps on moving. It doesn't like die, or you can see the ball sell or peters out, right? But this ball's accelerating, and when it gets to the fielder, it's got bam, pop to it. It's got this pop, and you go, whoa, that's arm strength. That's a plus tool right there. That ball has carry and it has the velocity. And that's what they're looking for. Whether you catch a fly ball or ground ball and get rid of it, they look for that, because at the end of the day, when a guy's trying to go first to third and you're an outfielder, you got to show that kind of velocity to throw that guy out. And so that's important about carry. The ball just has life to it that is just constant life, and it gets to the base quickly.
I like that term you use, life. Ball has life to it.
Yes.
Good. All right, so moving on. We'll go to hitting, because we'll come back to hitting power. I know that's related, but I remember you were talking about that being something that is not as big a factor for probably the younger athletes as it is to when you're starting to get post-collegiate. So let's go to hitting. And I wanted to talk about hitting because we've also had some shared athletes who have been evaluated recently.
Right.
and we've got gotten some pretty good insights and just some good verbiage on how coaches at the D1 level are evaluating kids hitting. And again, it's not just about, hey, the kid hit the ball. Because again, I think the low bar for a lot of us, growing up was make contact.
Right.
But there's a certain type of contact, right? And it's the approach to how you made that contact, right? Mm-hmm. And you mentioned something in one of the earlier podcasts about, okay, a collegiate guy can have 20 home runs, but put a wood bat in his hand and it's now 8.
Yeah.
So, and you use the term a lot. I like, hey, that bat doesn't play at the next level. So let's get into that. Let's get into that, the hitting tool.
Yeah. So if we started, and just kind of go along with me here, if we start at a younger level, like 7th grade, and I look at it, and if the kid's hitting the ball in the barrel in the sweet spot consistently, I go, well, that's really good. So in batting practice, they're hitting the ball in the sweet spot. Off the tee, sweet spot. So that checks the box. Okay, sweet spot off the tee, sweet spot off BP. Okay, game. Okay, inter squad game. Boy, he's getting a lot of hits. Looks good. Now all of a sudden we get umpires, teams are playing, scoreboard, fans yelling, doing the same thing. I go, that's consistency. That gets overlooked. The kid's consistent off the tee, consistent in BP, consistent in the game, consistent inter squads. Like that, okay, that's alerts me. This kid possibly has a hit tool. Let's see where that goes in a statistical manner over a long period of time during the season. Oh, it does. It matches up. Oh, that's a star of a hit tool at a younger age. Okay. Now we get out and we start playing high school ball, and you start to see them face better pitching. Okay. And they're hitting better pitching. They're hitting on the sweet spot. And all of a sudden, oh, wow, that looks good. Okay. It's consistent. The average is high. Oh, he can hit. Oh, check off the boxes. Now we go to summertime, better pitching, throwing harder. Is he doing the same things he did at 7th grade, 8th grade, high school varsity? He's doing those things. This kid has a hit tool in the summer. Now I go, is that a hit tool that relates to college?
So let me stop you there. Another one of our shared athletes had a storied major league career. Probably one of the funnest guys I've ever worked with, Chris Carter.
Oh, the animal.
One of the best hitters to come out of the Bay Area.
Absolutely. Hands down.
Yeah. In quite a while. And so I started working with Chris, I think ninth grade, 10th grade, maybe.
I think earlier than that, because I had him at 11.
Okay.
And he came to you right after that, a year later at 13, probably.
So what were you seeing in Chris at that point?
Well, first of all, he was in attack mode right from the get-go, from the first swing. His mindset, when he got on the tee, it wasn't a warm-up. It wasn't, you know how kids, I got to get loose off the tee?
Right.
He had already stretched. He already swung the bat itself physically, probably 50 times without even hitting the ball. So the first swing off the tee, I heard this crack and I went, whoa, what is that? And and all of a sudden he just locked in. When I say locked in like a big leaguer. And I was like, this kid's like 11, 12. What's going on here? And I was playing still. So I could relate to what he was doing. And I was going, whoa, that's different. That's way different. He was just locked in mentally and he was ready. See, he was prepared before we even started off the tee. So he started hitting the ball off the tee and all of a sudden it was starting to go to the back of the cage on a line. And I went, whoa, wait a minute. That's off the tee. And I'm not talking about like 2 or 3. I'm talking about like 10 to 20, 30 in a row. Bam, bam, bam. And I went, oh, that's different. And I said, okay, he's off the tee, ain't moving. Let me throw him some BP. Man, I started throwing some BP and I just heard this loud crack. Bam, bam. And it's just like off the tee. And I was like, man, this dude is like, is he having a good day? Like, he having a good day? No, that wasn't a good day. That was him every day. He would just hit so much and it was off the sweet spot. So the swing was developed. It was developed on one, he had great balance.
Yeah.
Good body control. When he hit the baseball, he hit through it, and he never hit at the ball. He hit through the ball a lot.
Yeah.
And when he hit it, it made a different sound, and you heard it. You heard him when he hit it, and that triggered me at a young age. So he started just doing this against every type of competition. That's a hit tool. And you know what happened? That's the first guy I said had a hit tool of power.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember doing a showcase workout at a park at Dabla Vista Ballpark here in the Bay Area. And 20 scouts came out. 25 scouts, cross checkers, local guys, everybody. And I was still in batting practice. I had about 60 brand new baseballs. At the end of the workout, I only had 20 left. He had left the ballpark 40 times. It's the best hitting display I ever saw. He left the ballpark, left field, center field, right field, just hitting missiles. And after about that, I go, you guys seen enough? Yeah, we're good. He goes, I'll hit some more if you want me to. I'm like, hit more baseballs, Chris. But that's what I'm talking about, man.
That's a typical Chris Carter.
Yeah, right there, right? He had that's a hit tool. That's it. He's on the sweet spot hitting the ball with backspin perfectly to left, center, right, and it's consistent. That's a hit tool. So you look at that and you go, wow, that's a true hit tool. That's what they're talking about. And when you looked at his swing, he was in correct positions, correct setup, launch, initiation, contact, finish. He was just had him dialed in against all types of pitching, and it took a lot of repetition and he was able to do that. And so when I see that, I kind of evaluate, when I evaluate hitters, I compare him to Chris all the time because that is the ultimate hit tool right there. He could hit. And so when people say, oh man, he could really hit, I go, interesting. No, that guy could really hit. What is your son doing or your daughter doing that we can make a little bit better? So I start breaking down the mechanics. And the college coaches do the same thing. They got tons of video now. High school coaches got tons of video. And you can break down the mechanics and see if this player could possibly make an adjustment to have a hit tool. Like, this is a flaw in their swing. Can they adjust now and do that in the game and take that forward consistently? Keyword, consistency. Hit the ball in the barrel. Can they make an adjustment? That's how you can acquire a hit tool. Okay. You may not have it, but you can acquire it through work, training and stuff. And can you handle it in the game? If you can translate that, it can become a hit tool if you're the average Joe. Or if you're above average, maybe you have it.
So in the era of of metrics and all that stuff now,
right?
How is that playing with identifying a tool? Or is it, is there certain, if we're trying to quantify it, which everyone always tries to do, is quantify everything.
Right.
Are there certain spin rates at certain ages that, that people are following? Because, again, can a kid achieve the right spin rates with an improper process? So, right. And the reason why I say this is because, again, I can have a kid run a fast time.
Right.
But if his process is wrong, I know he's not gonna race at the next level, to take your analogy.
Right.
So, and I know people are looking for, hey, what is that thing that I need that's gonna tell me, hey, my kid is doing good and they're doing well. And we always run to the analytics.
Right.
So I'm just curious, can the analytics also be a little deceiving in this aspect?
Well, let me give you some numbers. I was talking to a college coach and what they were doing at batting practice. I'm just going to start there because I think this is important. Everybody wants to play at the next level, get beyond high school and play in college. I just want to throw these numbers out there. So they go to batting practice. They turn the TrackMan on in their stadium. Mm-hmm. Okay. They set up a couple machines, fastball machine, slider machine, and then they have a reaction machine to where you don't know what's coming. Okay. So what they look at is this player, and what they're trying to get their players to do is hit the ball at 95 miles per hour. Okay. Between the launch angle of 15 and 30, I think he said 30 degrees. Okay. 0 degrees. Remember, 0 degrees basically is a line drive. Basically 1 degree is a line drive. So if they're hitting it at 95 miles per hour at 15 to 31 degrees, they're at their ballpark, they're beating the outfielders. So the ballpark plays a major role in that too. Mm-hmm. See what I'm saying? It's not just like, okay, here's the number. This is applied at their ballpark. If they get the player swinging 95 off the exit velocity speed of the ball hitting the bat, and it's at 15 to 30 degrees at their ballpark, they're beating the outfielders. Okay, so understand that's related to the ballpark. So when you talk about analytical parameters and stuff, I think parents don't get locked into like, oh, well, it hits it at that miles per hour. But what if the ballpark is huge? And you hit at 30 degrees, it's an out. So you got to adjust down a little bit, So what I always tell people, hit the ball in the sweet spot as much as possible and hit as many line drives as possible. If you do that, you're going to be just fine at any level. And and it's pretty simple. Don't get caught up in like, well, he swings at this much, but it was hit at 45 degrees. It means nothing. So I think that's important, Aaron, is that, understand hitting line drives, hitting a ball with backspin on a line or on the ground hard, or in the air at a trajectory where the outfielders, the infielders can't catch it on a line. It's the best way to train a hitter, period. And, like you said, Mother Nature and all that stuff, it helps them as they develop if they're a younger player. But teach a correct swing to where the player can do it in the game conditions. That's the key right there. Doing it in the game. You can have a good cage swing, Aaron, a good practice swing, but you get in the game, something happens mentally. That goes to the sixth tool I talked about. Can a player handle it mentally? Can they handle failure? I think part of deconstructing these 5 tools we talked about is, can you handle when things aren't going well? So
it's called performance.
Yeah. Yes, performance.
All performance. So,
I love
in
that.
other words, you got to be a gamer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of, talks about those tools, Aaron, about all those tools. And in the power tool, like you discussed, is a tool that I think is acquired later. I don't see a lot of players with power tools immediately. And I've seen just over the past 10 years of athletes I've had, maybe two guys with a power tool, like a projectable power tool. And it plays. The first player, and I think that Chris Carr, because he had a natural power tool, but from the time Chris left us and stuff, two players. We have one right now that potentially has a power tool that we share. And then years ago, there's another guy who just had it, and it worked at the next level. But yeah, so I think the power tool is something that has a lot to do with the development and strength of a player.
Yeah, Brett Wallace was another guy that comes in. He also had a long.
Brett Wallace could mash. Exactly.
Yeah.
He could hit. He was one of the best hitters.
These guys are far and few between, and I don't think people realize or appreciate, oh, my kid hit so many home runs. It's like, yeah, okay, well, what kind of bat? What was the pitching like? What was the field like? And how did that ball move? So, there's some things that you're talking about when you're talking about deconstructing these things that, in all honesty, unless you're a coach and have been coaching for a while and have developed the eye and seen enough iterations of what these things should look like, you're not going to be qualified to always speak upon.
Right.
And so you got to kind of, again, there's politics in baseball and tryouts and all the rest of that stuff, but you got to kind of understand that you may not be seeing what they're seeing. And so part of reason why we're doing this is so that you guys can understand, hey, these are some of the things that these coaches are looking for. And regardless of whether there's success on the end of that activity or failure, what does that process look like?
That.
And I think that's where the emphasis needs to be, especially for these young athletes, if you're talking about developing these tools. Some of it might happen naturally. Some of it you may have to construct. But understand, you can't always believe your lying eyes.
True. So true. Yeah. I think the key word you said, Aaron, I love what you said, the process. That's a lot to do with managing your athlete and understanding that it takes time for your players to develop. So well said, my man. Well said.
There we have it. Deconstructing the 5 tools.
With that said, today, Aaron, that ends our podcast. And again, this is Coach Eric Johnson, the brand.
And this is Coach Aaron Thigpen, the source, reminding you guys to hit that like or dislike button. Even better, send a comment, question, and let us know how we're doing. We'll see you.